Yo ho 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 ho. It's magic. I know. It's me, Captain Smits, coming at you like waves of a fever, dressed in demon denim, here, as always, at the back of the bus. MOON, that sure spells social collapse in half a generation. Here's hoping. Why am I back here? Well, just for some peace and quiet, but now some teenagers have gotten bored, and I'm feeling a little bit sick, but I'm too embarrassed to get up. How are you? I'm fine, but seriously, how are you? That's good. You know, I feel like you're the only person who really gets me. We should run away together. I'll do the drugs, you lay the tripwire, and by bus, I mean actopatenergiga. It's a big fish. That's how you pronounce it. Car insurance? When do I have time to shop for car insurance? Alright. You burn the place down, I'll start the car. It will come as no surprise to you, as I'm sure you've been keeping up with my blog, that I was recently swallowed whole by a giant catfish. Eaten, in fact. Now I know what you're thinking. What is the philosophical difference between being swallowed and being eaten? If I swallow a yambo, have I eaten it, even though I haven't digested it? To be eaten, to eat something, is to imbibe a solid, not necessarily digest it. So being swallowed whole, you know, I could swallow a bee and then the bee could come out and fly away. The bee is, you know, maybe traumatized a little bit. Maybe it's fine. I don't know. Do bees think like that? Maybe the bee's just like, whoa, what a crazy life. And it thinks that happens to bees all the time. It doesn't know. Maybe it will go back to the hive and say to the bees, man, I don't like being swallowed. And they'll be like, were you swallowed, Carl? I'm like, yeah, I was. That's Carl. He's always getting swallowed by stuff. Note that down. You see, you're learning stuff, right? And that's the point of me doing these videos, is you're learning stuff. But let's let that be. BB-8. Shut up, BB-8. But let's let that be. I was recently doing that thing that I was telling you about. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, I had to go to Lake Cumberland to do it, as I'm banned from my local swimming pool, like I wanted that to happen. As it turns out, the kiddie pool is the answer to the age-old question, where will you be when diarrhea strikes? But it wasn't so much like a strike. Like a strike to me, it, you know, brings up the idea of, you know, like a real quick jet going. This was more like ongoing, like days and nights World War II carpet bombing. Specifically, I had to go down right to the bottom, where we do not all float. There, in the sonorous dark, just me, my frog suit, my Fraggle Rock branded oxygen tank. I put my foot on what I thought was a tree trunk down there. This, as it turned out, was actually the barbel of an enormous catfish, possibly even bigger than Rush Stockton's brain. Definitely at least covering a greater area. You know, because... Now I admit I made a critical error here, as I reached for my trusty trauma shears to possibly snip the catfish in the eye. I remembered that I never actually bought the trauma shears. They were kind of expensive. I just bought the scabbard to keep my dry spaghetti in. So, as it turns out, deep lake catfish do not mind pasta. I guess they don't mind anything. I mean, I was fully dressed, you know. I was going to eat the oxygen tank too. In a mad moment of swirling mud and dancing debris, the mighty catfish swallowed me whole. In there, deep inside, its mighty fishy tummy became a sarcophagus. Was it travelling up, down? Was it digesting me at all? For days or minutes, definitely some length of time, I remained inside said catfish, and just as the novelty was wearing off, I heard my meaty vessel surface, and as it did, it projectile vomited me right onto a beach. So I'm walking up this beach, and I see that this beach is, you know, kind of what you would call like an urban beach right next to a city. Sort of, imagine like, you know, Barcelona, but it's obviously American, so it's kind of, oh shit. And there's loads of like plastic beach, you know, like this, like recliners and stuff like that, loads of towels, you know, glasses everywhere, syringes sticking out, little shops that would sell all sorts of tat. But there's no one. There's no one around. There's no one sunbathing. There's no one trying to sell me, a necklace with my name properly spelt in it with a cigarette. There's no one trying to sell me crack or anything. There's no perverts. Nothing. There's no one. There's no traffic. So I'm walking up and I'm like, what the fuck is this? Where am I? Why do I feel like I'm going to get, some sort of day charge for being here? I'm looking around and I see that there's this thing standing on a corner in a red polka dot dress with white polka dots. Would that be a red polka dot dress or a white polka dot dress? It's another philosophical question. Again, you're learning, aren't you? Thinking. You'll probably go home and type that up into Ask Jeeves. Jeeves, which would it be? And Jeeves, you probably have a conversation with Jeeves. You might run away with Jeeves, right? Am I sponsored by Ask Jeeves? No. The real question is why aren't I? I'll ask Jeeves that. Why haven't you sponsored me, twat? Anyway, I'm looking at this thing and I'm thinking, that's a nice dress on, no, I'm not a very good looking person, I'll admit that. But that is not a very attractive lady. And then I realised it's a chimpanzee. And kind of what gave it away was I guess maybe not, she's painting her nails, but with like a paintbrush, like a house paintbrush, like an 8-inch paintbrush. She's painting her whole hand, and she's going like that. Right, and just when I think like, oh, that's not very effective, she goes like this, and does a whole face. Like that. And then she looks at herself in the mirror. Like, oh yeah, I need a bit more. Painting blue. Blue. That'd be mad for your nails, wouldn't it? And mind your face. What did you think she's in, Avatar? Anyway, I walked up to her and I said, Madam, did we used to date? So I keep going, and eventually I get to a Burger King. I think I'll pop in, see how his lordship's doing. Possibly get a blessing, or maybe a small tract of land. But there's no one in there, except for 3 monkeys, 3 chimpanzees again. They're coming out as I'm going in, and they've got their arms full of burgers, absolutely full, and they're surprised by me. They stop, and they start hooting and dancing around. They're not that aggressive, but they're definitely not like into it. Oh great, a person. But then they kind of forget about me completely, and 2 of them drop the burgers they're carrying to start arguing about one particular burger. I don't know if it was a McRib or something. So the third one, the diplomat of the group, gets his burger, takes the wrapper off, and does that right into his forehead. And it really worked because the other 2 just start laughing and fuck off. And they leave this heap of burgers just where it was. It's bizarre. And worse still, the chimpanzees have wrecked it as well. And I'm looking around, not a human in sight. There's burgers everywhere, like stomped into the floor, like crushed into the furniture. And those soda syrup bags, like stomped as well, like they've had like a fight with colostomy bags. So it's not that bad. So I keep going further into the city, and I can hear different things. I can hear, some chimp hooting. I can hear, like, the chatter of machine guns in the distance. I can hear the tires on a car screeching. All this noise, but actually kind of way less noise than usual. It's fairly interesting. I can hear further than a block. What a nightmare. So I'm going along, and I see this other group of chimpanzees outside of TK Maxx, TJ Maxx, whatever the fuck it is. I'm sure in Britain they have the exact same thing as TK Maxx, but they call it TJ Maxx, or vice versa. They're fucking with my mind. I know what they're doing. It's that Mandela thing. That Nelson Mandela thing where he went back through time. So they're stood outside of Max, and they're just pulling clothes out, like whole racks of clothes. On the whole, whatever it is, with the wheels and everything, like whole racks of them. And I'm like, why are they doing that? Why are they not just going around looking at them? It's so that they get the sunlight on them. These monkeys aren't fools. They don't want the shop lights while they're perusing for their clothes. They want the sunlight. They're looking through it, oh, this is a good thread count, I'm assuming. They're talking chimp. So they've got this huge amount of clothes, like hundreds and hundreds of jeans and dresses and sweaters and button-down shirts and camisoles and parkas and hats and fucking faux pearl necklaces, I don't know, clothes. This is TK Maxx, there must be tens of dollars worth of clothes there. So they're going through them, and then they're picking which ones they like, they're holding them up, looking at each other. Yeah, I like this one. Oh, this is orange salopettes with a purple long-sleeved shirt. This is mental, I'll take this. Doing all that, and then they look at all the other clothes that they've brought out, and they just start pissing on them. Just pissing on them. And then they just fuck off. But why? Ow. That's what they do, innit? Monkeys. Like, oh, look. What if my hands were legs and my legs were hands? I'm a fucking monkey. Arrogant. So I continue walking, and there are chimps in apartment buildings, hanging out of the windows, hooting at me. But loud music blaring everywhere. This Bentley, 4-door Bentley goes past. Did you know that is the fastest 4-door in the world? With chimps hanging out with wine bottles. Goes around the corner and I hear it crash. And I think, oh, I better go. I better hurry up. I want to see this. Run around the corner and these chimps are fighting amongst themselves about whose fault it was. Could it have been the driver's? Who knows? They see me and they scatter. Right, I'm looking at this Bentley like, well, that's fucked. Insurance is going up now. Everywhere in the city, there's chimpanzees. I mean, there's a chimpanzee nightclub, it looks like, where every single chimpanzee is smoking at least one cigar. I want to look in, but the bouncer is having none of it. In the grocery store, the chimps have ransacked almost everything. The chips, the dips, the booze, most of the cheese, all of the milk, all of the tobacco. They love it. And they've meticulously emptied all of the bottles of Dasani and melted those bottles. Not melted, melted. You know, they've done a number on them. Like, that ain't just plastic. There's shit in there. In that amorphous blob. Like, that is a fucking hate crime. So I keep going, and then I see outside of a luxury retailer, I can't remember what it was called, like Dingus Binge Headkopfen or something like that, that they're piling up Louis Vuitton bags. Louis Vuitton. I'm sure I'm saying that right. They're piling up Louis Vuitton bags. And again, they're just doing the same thing. Like, you know, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars worth of Louis Vuitton bags. Just looking through it, holding it up. But then there's an explosion. And the chimps are spooked. Which is kind of weird because there's been like explosions and like loud noises throughout. And then they get even more spooked because it gets closer. And I realise there's a man coming. I'm like looking and I'm like, who's that? And he's wearing a black coat, like a really big black coat, like a box coat. And he's bald and he's really pale. And as he gets closer, I realise he's not wearing sunglasses. He's just got really dark bags around his eyes, like all the way around. And I'm like, Fester? And he stops and he goes, I'm Christopher Lloyd. I played Fester in The Addams Family and Addams Family Values. And we have a little debate about why didn't they call it The Addams Family Values, but whatever. Anyway, Fester's like, yeah, I'm just here to destroy that. And he gets out a little flamethrower from his massive coat and just burns all these Louis Vuitton plastic woven resin buckled shit into, again, another amorphous puddle of plastic. It's something to behold and smell. The chimps scatter from him, right? The chimps clearly know Fester and are terrified by Fester. And obviously, I have questions for Fester. But Fester's just like, bye! And I'm like, oh, see ya, Fester. And also, when I call him Fester, he goes, like Fester. I think it is Fester. So I keep walking. Doesn't seem like he wants me to follow him. There's chimps comparing trainers and shoving each other, chimps hammering shards of plastic into their own faces to give themselves chins. At first I thought they were like trying to do, like a dimple chin, like, like Spartacus. But I don't know. One chimp I see is sitting in the gutter with hundreds of tubes of toothpaste, and it's opening these bottles up and smearing the first globule of paste into its gums, and then just lobbing the almost full tubes of toothpaste at a parked truck. And this goes on, and again, apparently there's no one else in this city apart from me and Fester and fucking hundreds of thousands of chimps. So I decide that I'm going to go to a gas station to sleep. It's like a near place, it's open. I'll go in, The night is crazy. There's explosions and loud music, screaming, hooting, screeching of tires, and that would be fine, but eventually a car with 3 chimps pulls in and tries to fill up. But they don't understand how it works. They just take the pump and put it through the back window and start filling it up, like just pouring gasoline straight onto the back seat. And again, I wouldn't have cared, but one of these chimps is smoking 3 cigarettes, like this, like, I don't know, are they different flavoured cigarettes? Who knows, it's a mystery. So I tried to show them how it works, but when I open the flap for the gas canister, I think they think I'm hurting the car because they go mental. And I end up backing up, holding the pump, squirting it at them, backing into the store like it's the fucking mist. Like I get into the store, the first thing I do is go for the dog food. Dog food in front of the fucking door. And then I end up sleeping there on bags of chocolate pretzels and popcorn and all that shit. Not the worst night I've had, but not great. So the next day I leave the gas station with my Dora backpack full of ultra-heated sandwiches, and I'm walking around and I find what you might call a urban suburb. Right at the end of the city, again, just water behind it, and it's like these 8-foot stucco walls, and on top of it, there's just chimps straddling the walls. So they're all wearing khaki pants, and they've got pastel-coloured polo shirts, and they've all got these Oakland glasses. So you know, they're fucking dumb. They're all there, and they've got like machine guns and auto rifles, and one's got like a fucking underslung grenade launcher, and they're just like shooting at anything that gets near them. So I don't get that near them, but I watch for a bit. Eventually, this big Brinks truck comes up, and all these other chimps dressed exactly the same get out. They go into the Brinks truck, and they get out this like big bag of golf clubs, and they're showing them off. Like, oh look, it's graphite. Bang! Look, Ernst's neck can really take it. And while they're doing that, all these SUVs turn up. These black SUVs that have backwards dollar and irregular dollar signs spray painted on them. And these other chimps get out, dressed in monocles and waistcoats and top hats. One swinging a gold watch on a chain. And a fight ensues. And they really kick off. And no one's really shooting like at each other properly. Like they're trying to. But it's like watching stormtroopers versus the visually impaired. Like people are getting shot. Chimps are getting shot. But like, you could probably walk through it and be fine. It's a bit stupid. I'm stood there. And then what comes along but an enormous monster truck with chains around its wheels and a massive scoop welded onto the front. The monster truck skids right in front of me, comes to a stop, the passenger door swings open, and it's Fester. And he goes, "Get in if you like Shrek." And I'm like, alright, yeah, Shrek's cool. And I get in. And he explains to me on the ride that is the HOA being attacked by the banker chimps. The banker chimps have a claim to all of the bananas in the city, but the HOA are playing with fire, he says. So as we're driving away from this mess between the HOA and the banker chimp factions, he sees some different chimps, staging some priceless artwork out of an art gallery in an intersection, as they are wont to do. Beeps at them, they run away, they know who he is. And we spend a couple of minutes doing some donuts around over some priceless Rembrandts. Let's refresh this Jackson Pollock. What about a couple of tire skids over them? That really, you could sell that to some fucking idiot. And he turns to me and he says, "Where we're going, we don't need roads. Because we'll be there. We'll be at our destination. Roads will be more relevant when we decide to go somewhere else." And I'm like, "That's a good point, Fester," Christopher Lloyd. And he's like, "Oh no, call me Fester." I'm like, "Damn straight, Fester." And we both put on sunglasses. But then the arm of one sunglasses goes into my eye while I'm putting them on. Kind of ruined it. So anyway, I get to Fester's compound in the middle of the city. It used to be, I guess, the city central plaza, but now he's surrounded with all sorts of death traps. So we're going through, we're passing through various gates. There's chimps fraying on his electric fence, chimps slowly dying, screaming, agonizing. It's not funny. In big man traps, things like that. We get in, he's got all these flamethrowers at various angles on both timers and motion sensors. Just constant carnage. We get in as he's making me a cup of tea, and himself. You know, I'm not completely selfish. Make yourself one as well. It's your house. He's just putting mortar bombs in mortars, like, faced in random directions, not even looking at where they're going. Boomf, talk to me a bit, and then... Crazy. So I say to him, so what's with all the monkeys? And he's like, oh yeah, dunno. And that's it. Anyway, this goes on for a bit. I talk to Fester, but he's not really, being forthright with anything. I don't know if he has any information to give me. So we hang out for a bit, and, once you're tired of putting holes in skyscrapers and setting the methane in sewers on fire, you should probably stop doing it. I think it was Gandhi who said that. Fester's cool, but I don't have a lot in common with him. He really is just focused on fucking with the chimps. The man's a madman. It feels like the gestation period for chimps is 2 fucking days, because there's an endless supply of fucking chimps. And they're doing the same shit as ever, going into stores, piling things up, ransacking apartment buildings, falling down elevator shafts, hooting, screaming, and presumably talking a whole load of bollocks. They're scared of Fester, but they're not scared of me, but they do treat me with contempt. So one time, I'm starting to think, can I understand them? I can kind of understand, what they mean. I decide I'll go into what apparently is a chimp comedy club. They won't let me in, so I get a Richard Nixon mask, cover it in Elmer glue, get some carpet, and I'm a shoo-in. No problem. Ooh, ladies' night, you're in for free. In there's a chimp on stage with a food tray going, aha, aha. And I'm like, have you ever been on an aeroplane? Who's serving you food on an aeroplane? And anyway, that's bullshit. Aeroplane food isn't that bad. I mean, what do you expect? And get your head out of your ass. So anyway, the comic is going on about, airplane food and stuff like that. Oh yes, it reminds me of when I was at school. You were never at school. What are you talking about? And then the usual shit. Oh, aren't gorillas stupid? Oh, don't orangutans think they're better than us? Yeah, because they are. Most of the chimps, though, aren't really listening to this guy. They're just, having a sip of Johnny Walker Blue and pouring the rest onto the ground. And fucking each other's in the toilets. Not the worst comedy club I've been to be honest. What I will say in my defense, though, is I went in there and I thought I would try and do, a good act. I showed them, look, condom machine. Oh, and they love that. They love the fucking condom machine. They're looking everywhere across the city for condom machines. But not to use them as condoms. As time goes by, Fester's doing his own thing and still as unwilling as ever to talk about anything other than nitroglycerin ratios. And again, I find him good company, I just don't have that much to say with him. Sometimes I feel like a bit of a third wheel between Fester and his dynamite. And the chimps are, doing the same thing too, just making more and more of a mess. I mean, it's kind of unbelievable, they must have got everything that was in out. But no, there's more. Like a fucking magician pulling a clown's intestines out of its arse, I suppose. So I'm looking around, and on the opposite end of the city to the HOA, also surrounded by water on that end, is, I suppose, what you'd call the industrial sector. Not really industrial, but kind of, inner city industrial. Maybe where the artisans would live. Maybe where you'd have an actual masseuse, not a knock-in shop, a masseuse parlor. Someone who takes it very seriously. But the stigma. And amongst these, there is a small, but not very small, really, a small car plant. And this car plant is blowing steam. There's lights on. There's noise. I saw a chimp going to work with a hard hat. It wasn't wearing it. It was using it as like a sled, but still. So I'm like, I'm going to check that out. I go over. Somehow the chimps have got like the automated assembly line back working. They've got all this like pre-made, prefab stuff, you know, the doors and stuff, the chassis. They've got them going down this assembly line and they're attaching stuff. And they're getting these cars to work. And all they're doing, after, 24 hours of a car going down the assembly line, getting all the pre-made stuff attached, as soon as a new car is out, a chimp gets in it, often it's by lottery, and they'll start it, they know how to start it, they'll rev it, handbrake comes off, and they just fucking gun it straight into the factory wall. And these chimps get out with like glass in their face, like blood coming down their nose, and they're like, they think it's great. They think that's what cars are for. Sometimes chimps die doing this. They don't mind. It's worth it to them, apparently. So at this point, I've decided, I think I'm going fucking mad. So anyway, futile as I'm sure it's going to be, I decide I'm going to try and start helping the chimps by sort of, reasoning with them, guiding them away from just non-stop waste. So, I talk to them a bit, you know how you like Twinkies? When you eat a Twinkie, you don't need to stomp on the other 8 in the packet. You could just keep them. Not interested. You know how you don't like the taste of cigarettes? Stop eating them. So of course they won't listen, so I start to try and block off a few entrances to a few stores or apartments where there's something left. I start to try and hide some of the cars, so when they run out of cars, there'll be some more cars for them to fucking waste. But of course they won't listen. In fact, they're quite offended by this. And by this time, I think I've kind of picked up enough chimp that I can at least get what's going on. And they have a big chimp meeting with all the representatives of the different chimp factions. We've got the HOA chimp faction, we've got the fishing chimps, we've got the archdiocese of fucking Monkeyland, all this bullshit. And they're all in agreement. Festa isn't the problem. Festa isn't the fucking problem. Driving down the main street at 120 miles an hour in God knows what. I saw the fucker driving a train down there once. There's no train track. Right? Oh, he's not the problem. Killing chimp, bang, 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 whatever. Throwing fucking dynamite. No problem. That, apparently, is just Festa's fucking nature. I'm the problem. Apparently. So now here I am, in Festa's basement, surrounded on all sides by belligerent chimps, who I suppose will dissect me should I go outside. It's not that bad. It could be worse. And there you go. On the other hand, I don't have to worry about paying a mortgage, so... I'm thinking about it, that catfish eating me was the best thing that ever happened. And we're done.